We did, yeah.
We start our next panel, the second panel. I believe we have one presenter through virtual presentation, correct? Okay. So we will start with the Canadian manufacturers and exporters, Pratik Balerau. Thank you. You have 7 minutes. Please state your name, your title, and you have 7 minutes. At the 6-minute mark, I will remind you that you have 1 minute left. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Pratik Balerau. I'm Manager of Policy and Outreach at Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, CME. We are a national business association that has advocated for the economic health of all manufacturers in all provinces and subsectors since 1871. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about Bill 40, the Protect Ontario by Securing Affordable Energy for Generations Act. My message today is simple. Ontario needs an energy system that is affordable, predictable, and capable of supporting long-term industrial investment. Manufacturers support the goals of Bill 40, but we believe targeted refinements are essential to ensure that the bill truly delivers affordability and competitiveness for industry. Ontario's manufacturing sector competes globally. We already face significant cost pressures, and energy is one of the largest. Bill 40's ambition to guarantee clean, reliable, and long-term energy is aligned with what many of our members need. But how the government enacts this ambition will materially affect whether we can invest in electrification, expansion, and innovation here in Ontario. Bill 40 explicitly elevates economic growth as a statutory objective in both the Electricity Act and the OEB Act. That's an important recognition. The electricity system is not just a utility. It's a foundation for job creation, capital investment, and long-term industrial competitiveness. Manufacturers can now more credibly advocate for system planning that aligns with clean industrial expansion, including green hydrogen production. However, without strong, transparent metrics defining economic growth, this mandate could be vague. We need assurance that growth does not override ratepayer interests. Bill 40 also introduces a regime for specified load facilities such as data centers. This could be used strategically to align very large electricity users with provincial priorities, for example, requiring commitments on jobs or regional investment. But this power also has the potential to deter major industrial users if burdens or conditions are unclear or onerous. That's a real concern, I think, of politicizing grid access to a certain extent, especially if criteria are not transparent. Bill 40 also includes restrictions on hostile foreign participants in Ontario's energy sector, explicitly prioritizing Canadian entities and procurement. This supports domestic energy supply chains, potentially driving investment in Canadian clean energy manufacturing. But we must also retain the ability to source competitively internationally when domestic capacity cannot deliver on price or timelines. This will grow local supply chains while also protecting the rate affordability. I think in terms of what manufacturers want to see, to truly ensure that Bill 40 supports industrial competitiveness and long-term growth, I urge the committee to consider the following recommendations. Defining economic growth more precisely. Require that the ISO and the OEB publish a 10 to 20-year economic growth plan with quantifiable metrics, such as jobs created, clean energy investments, and industrial load forecasts. Also mandate public reporting on progress so that economic growth objective does not become an empty phrase. Secondly, narrow and clarify the specified load facility regime, and limit the definition in regulation to clear high megawatt thresholds and to explicit classes such as hyperscale data centers. Exclude traditional manufacturing facilities and electrification projects from SLF capture. Require published and objective connection criteria and a formal appealable administrative process if connection is denied or conditioned. Add a statutory 5-year sunset and mandatory review of SLF impacts on investments and rates. This preserves government discretion where needed, but also prevents ad hoc denial of access. Mitigating investment risk. Require binding long-term contracts like power purchase agreements or capacity contracts, or a clear cost-sharing framework so that large industrial users can plan with predictability. Create also a mechanism for rate stabilization during the ramp-up of new generation or transmission, especially for industries making investment decisions now. And finally, supporting the Ontario industrial supply chain. in procurement rules governing publicly funded generation or grid infrastructure, prioritize Canadian manufacturing capacity first, but maintain open, competitive processes to potentially include foreign entities under strict criteria. This supports local supply chains without sacrificing value. These amendments matter for Ontario's energy future for a number of reasons. With global competition to attract clean industrial investment, Ontario needs to offer not just clean energy, but affordable, predictable, and stable energy. Manufacturers are ready to electrify operations, produce green hydrogen, and scale advanced technology, but they need clarity and certainty from the energy system. By also aligning specified load facility criteria with jobs and capital, and by ensuring transparency, Ontario can channel major project energy into long-term economic development. And finally, prioritizing domestic energy supply chains strengthens Ontario's resilience, but not at the cost of competitiveness or cost effectiveness. Chairs and members of the committee, let me end by saying that Ontario stands at a pivotal moment. Bill 40 has the ambition to reshape our energy future for the next generation. Manufacturers are deeply invested in Ontario's clean energy future. We support the direction of Bill 40, but to seize its full opportunity, we need clarity, protection, and accountability. The amendments I've outlined are not barriers. They are guardrails that will let this bill drive real economic growth, clean innovation, and long-term stability. I urge the committee to consider these recommendations so that Bill 40 becomes not just a vision, but a foundation for a stronger, more competitive Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move to the Nuclear Innovation Institute. Please identify yourself, your title, and you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jessica Linthorne. I'm the President and CEO of the Nuclear Innovation Institute, an independent nonprofit organization based in the Clean Energy Frontier region of Bruce Grey and Huron counties. Our work focuses on providing clear, evidence-based analysis to support Ontario's long-term energy planning, economic development, and workforce needs. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before the committee as you review Bill 40, particularly the new framework for connecting large electricity users to the grid. Demand for electricity from data centres, AI computing, and cloud services is increasing rapidly. Bill 40 recognizes this by introducing a structured process through the new Section 28.1 to ensure that specific load facilities, including data centres, can be connected in ways that support economic growth and maintain system reliability. Our research strongly supports the need for clarity and alignment. Today, Canada's data centre sector uses roughly 12 terawatt-hours of electricity annually. If this load were met by natural gas or coal, emissions would be significantly higher. By contrast, nuclear power produces zero operational emissions while offering the constant, around-the-clock supply required for data infrastructure. Just as importantly, data centres require continuous 24/7 power, making supply reliability a foundational requirement. The Clean Energy Frontier region is uniquely positioned to help Ontario meet these needs. Number one, reliable power and the right land to support growth. Nuclear generation in the Clean Energy Frontier provides steady, always-on electricity that matches the needs of large, continuous data centre operations. This reliability aligns directly with the expectations set out in Section 28.1. The region also offers something data centre developers increasingly struggle to find: large, suitable parcels of industrial land. Hyperscale facilities often require 50 to 200 acres, and the Clean Energy Frontier has the space to support responsible, long-term digital infrastructure growth. Number two, existing transmission capacity. Proximity to one of the province's largest nuclear generating stations means proximity to high-capacity transmission infrastructure already in place. This reduces the cost, complexity, and timelines associated with connecting large new loads. Number three, secure sites and infrastructure. Data center requires elevated physical and cybersecurity. Locating them near nuclear facilities provides access to established security systems, trained personnel, and emergency response capabilities, an advantage highlighted in our ERO submission. Number four, meaningful economic impact for rural Ontario. NII's early analysis shows that constructing a 48-megawatt hyperscale data centre in the Clean Energy Frontier region would generate $484 million in provincial GDP, $331 million in labour income, 3,785 jobs during construction, and $162 million in tax revenue. These benefits align directly with the bill's emphasis on supporting economic growth in Ontario. At the federal level, Canada is prioritizing data sovereignty and investing in domestic AI computing capacity. But this infrastructure must be powered by clean, reliable, and it is to be located in Canada and not in jurisdictions with higher emissions or different privacy frameworks. Nuclear energy, particularly in the clean energy frontier region, provides a stable foundation for securing domestic data infrastructure. Bill 40's intent is clear: to ensure that large new loads support economic priorities, align with system requirements, and can be integrated into the grid responsibly. Continued life extension of existing nuclear facilities, paired with future projects such as the proposed Bruce C, will be essential to meeting the long-term electricity needs of AI, cloud computing, and other energy-intensive sectors. In summary, the growth of data centers presents both opportunity and challenge. Clean, reliable power, particularly nuclear, is essential to meet that demand. The clean energy frontier region is uniquely positioned to support responsible data center development with the reliability, land, infrastructure, and economic potential to drive long-term growth. Bill 40 provides a clear framework to ensure that this growth aligns with Ontario's economic and energy priorities. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much. Our third witness will join us virtually. I call upon Groundheat Solar Wind Corporation representative to join us, and is he?
It's me.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hi. Welcome.
My name is...
Welcome. Please identify yourself, your title, and you have 7 minutes. The floor is yours.
My name is Gino DiRezzi, and my company name is Groundheat Solar Wind. I'm a professional engineer in Ontario. I'm considered a pioneer in geothermal. My first installation of geothermal was 1979. And thank you to the committee for allowing me to speak. I'll be sharing some benefits and solutions for geothermal and thermal storage capacity to contribute to the Bill 40 strategy. My understanding of Bill 40 is at the province's discretion to approve grid connection for large energy-intensive facilities over 50 megawatt, prioritizing those that promote economic growth, like data centers, hydrogen plants. It also promotes hydrogen development and faster utility approvals. Geothermal technology directly supports the same by cutting electricity demand, lowering emissions. It makes Ontario more competitive in big projects. The Bill 40 objectives, from what understanding, strategic gatekeeping for major economic benefits, local value Canadian jobs, and getting grid access, especially data centers, hydro plants, manufacturers, and crypto mining. Mandate for the economic growth, energy planning, regulation must now consider job creation and industrial competitiveness. Support of hydrogen, Bill 40 helps build the provincial hydrogen sector, grid and regulation integration. The faster utility approvals removes referendums for energy infrastructure rights right away. New funding options allows the government to subsidize infrastructure and lower rates. So geothermal matters because the geothermal cuts peak demand, can reduce facility grid demand for heating and cooling by 30 to 40%, freeing up capacity for growth and new projects, especially in some cases where we can actually store thermal cooling and store thermal heating underneath existing high tower buildings downtown Toronto or any other place. We support the hydrogen economic uses for process heating and cooling in hydrogen plants, integrating with renewable resources and cutting electrical demands. Enables economic growth, lower energy bills, more grid headroom. allowing some space for grid reusable, and local job creation in drilling, construction, and manufacturing. Proven technology used by Microsoft data centers in Sweden, N-Wave deep cooling Toronto, and at industrial scale. We can actually reproduce the N-Wave deep cooling that's downtown Toronto on Front Street many times over under existing lowest parking garages. So the economic impact, potential jobs, general section, we can increase jobs, 5,000 plus jobs, installation, supply chain, depending how quickly we can allow us to accelerate this installation of thermal storage. Investments, large facilities, 20 to 80 million capex, could total 350 to 500 million throughout the province. Operation savings 3 to 5 million annually, electricity avoidance per large facilities. The key message is that geothermal is a practical, shovel-ready solution for Bill 40, big challenge, enabling economic growth without grid overload. Case studies show the impacts in many cases of electricity saving, real private investment, and job creation. And in addition, there are studies done by U.S. Department of Energy, and also that in some cases, where we need only anywhere from 20 to 100 hours a year for data centers to totally get off the grid, and they can basically most of their needs are during the peak times. This morning, I was in part of a group, a European District Energy Group in Europe, and Ireland group presentation showed concerns that in Dublin, data centers will be needing 50% of Dublin's available power. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you very much for the deputations. Now we will start the first round of questioning. MPP Kizotto.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to thank the three presenters here today. But my question is going to be for Jessica here. You know, by 2050, we're going to have one of the cleanest grids in the world, 99% clean. What role do you believe that the emerging technologies such as SMRs and advanced nuclear systems should play in Ontario's energy planning under Bill 40?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for the question. I certainly recognize today we see 60% of Ontario's grid is coming from nuclear, and it's reliable, affordable, stable power that is being generated. So certainly the economic opportunity with nuclear, and we did hear from a previous speaker today about the domestic supply chain, and that's not something to be understated. Bruce Power has a commitment to spending 95% here in Canada. And so tremendous opportunity economically. When we think about technology advancements such as data centers, there's a tremendous opportunity for the province to align technology such as data centers and that growth with nuclear power.
Thank you very much for that. I'd like to ask Gino a question here. What is your organization overall impression of Bill 40 and the government's direction on securing affordable energy for the future, Gino?
We're absolutely for it. We think it's a good idea. In fact, there's responsibilities that go along with trying to grab power from citizens with data centers without any implications. So we were asked to do a presentation in Waterloo for a 64 megawatt data center. And they said, we can't give you power until 7 years from now. So the data center wouldn't go ahead unless you bring your own power. So absolutely. So basically you have Google and Meta and all these big companies. They're basically are trying to buy either give the incentives for basically demand-side management, give the demand-side management, and force the same way as the City of Ontario Hydro used to give benefits to those who shut off the power at peak times. Now they're forced. Some of the data centers in the U.S. are forced to pay industrial usage locally to basically shut down power so at the peak time so they could use it. So basically the incentives, instead of going from the Toronto Hydro to the individuals, now it's going directly from the data centers. So they're being forced to do this in order to put the data centers in. So they're putting regulations in place similar to Bill 40. So this is a very good bill to as an example of what should be done.
Thank you very much, Gino. I'll pass it on.
Bidawi.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks you to all the presenters for being here. My question is for the Canadian manufacturers and exporters. As you saw, Bill 40 adds an economic growth approach to the objectives of the Ontario Energy Board and to the independent electricity systems operator. So I was hoping to understand how your membership feels about this slight change in focus.
I think we're very happy about this. I think it's a good recognition by the government that economic growth being embedded in the OEB Act and the ISO Act are very important steps. What we would like to see is it being defined more clearly. I think at this point we don't really understand how the metrics are going to be laid out. I think once we have a better understanding of that, we'll think about it. But on the face of it, we were delighted that the government recognized the need for economic growth and elevated that as a statutory objective in those two acts.
Okay, thank you.
MPP Pinsona.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the presenters for being here and taking time out of your day to be part of this process. My question is for Jessica and the Nuclear Innovation Institute. In your comments, you said there's a need for a long-term energy plan. Nuclear gives you power all the time. It's clean and it's reliable. I think we agree with that. How might Bill 40 influence economic development in regions like Bruce County, as you mentioned, where nuclear energy plants play a major role in the local economy?
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. When we think about the local economy in rural Ontario, I'll go back to in my remarks referencing the opportunity to be close to a facility, a nuclear facility. We have transmission lines. There's a proposed Bruce C project, certainly bringing more power online to power this future technology that we are seeing, and then certainly allowing that across the province. We think about, again, the domestic supply chain, the jobs that will be created, and certainly recognizing, again, the role that nuclear will play to power that reliable, affordable technology into the next economy.
Yeah, and we want to, it's clean energy, and, I had a friend who retired out of the Bruce nuclear plant. He went there like 35 years ago. It's safe, it's reliable, and I think it is the new future for energy. Thank you.
32 seconds. Okay, thank you. We move to the official opposition, MPP Glover.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let's see. Thank you all for being here, and you, sir, for being online, Mr. DeReza. I'm going to start with Mr. Bolero. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, it's pretty close to it.
No, say it, please.
It's Ballerau.
Ballerau. Okay, I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Okay. Anyways, thank you for being here. You were talking about that electricity is not just a utility, and I was trying to take notes as you were speaking. And I'd appreciate getting, actually, from all three of you, your written deputations in the future, just via email. That it's much more. It's the foundation for our economic success. 115 years ago, Adam Beck was a member of this parliament, and he was arguing for public utility because he owned a cigar box factory in Kitchener, and he wanted to have cheap electricity for his business, but for developing a manufacturing base. And so what you're saying is 115 years later is still relevant. How do we actually do this? And now with the pressures of blockchain, data centers coming, how do we balance that? And you had some suggestions about how we balance the needs of manufacturers versus these other agencies that are coming in.
Well, data centers, it appears as though are going to be the future. But I think we also have to recognize the importance of traditional manufacturing facilities, right? Mm-hmm. And some of these are intensive industries that require a lot of electricity. So I think we have to find a way to sort of balance some, claiming some of that energy from things like hyperscale data centers that Jessica mentioned require a lot of energy, versus, traditional manufacturing facilities that I still think are the backbone of the economy in Ontario. Manufacturers need a lot of electricity to produce things, to generate, and to power the economy. But my job is to advocate for clean and reliable energy for manufacturers. So I think it's up to how the bill is implemented and then finding the balance. As previous presenter said, the devil is in the details. So I think we'll still need to see a bit more clarity on how we can make that distinction between traditional facilities and data centers.
Right. Okay, thank you. And it speaks really to, vertical integration. I mean, this is one of our greatest competitive advantages in Ontario, is that we've got vertical integration. I'm from Oshawa, and the beauty of being, manufacturing in Ontario is we had the iron mine in northern Ontario. We had the steel being processed in Hamilton, and then we had the cars being made in Oshawa and Oakville and other places as well. And now we're, in the 21st century, and we're looking for rare earth minerals, and we've got them in Ontario. We've got the ability to process them here as well. How will that impact? What is the role of manufacturing, and how do we, transition to or open up our economy to high-tech manufacturing here in Ontario?
Well, manufacturing is changing. Manufacturing is not the same that, where you think people work in a factory. AI is becoming a big part of manufacturing. A lot of our members are now introducing AI into their operations. We are talking about, sort of advancing, it's called advanced manufacturing for a reason, right? It's different from the previous sectors of manufacturing. So I think there will be more of a role for AI and those technologies to be integrated into traditional manufacturing. I just think it's going to be a longer process. But certainly, we have a lot of retirements in the sector, about 18,000 retirements every single year for the next several years, and we are finding it difficult to bring those people in. So I think out of necessity in some ways, people are relying on AI and automation tools. So that's going to continue changing how we see manufacturing.
Okay, you know what? I'm just going to let you complete that. So 18,000 retirements of workers in manufacturing.
Correct.
In the last few years. And so what are you recommending, what is your agency recommending for, replacing those workers and training new workers?
Well, I think apprenticeships are always going to be the gold standard, but we know that the average age of an apprentice in Ontario is 28, which is too old, right? So I think the government has taken good initiatives, I think, in bringing more people in. We have more funding for things like the Level Up Skill Trade fairs. We see a lot of our member companies trying to recruit people, and they're having difficulty. So I think there's always going to be a role. Some things AI cannot replace. So we need our folks, core people that are doing stuff on the factory floor, but also a role for robotics and more advanced AI technologies.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would just say my father is a tool and die maker, my uncle's an electrician, other uncles are in the construction industry. So I appreciate the need and they're all very old. Like I'm getting up there. They're all very old. Let's see. Let me go to Mr. DeReza. You were talking about helping to build the hydrogen system. What was the link between the your Solar Wind Corporation and the hydrogen system?
It's only about storage.
1 minute.
So we have ability to store. So geothermal for the last 47 years that I've been involved in, they basically, you take the heat out of the ground in the winter, and in the summer you put the heat back in the ground. What we're doing now, we're separating the geothermal loops. We're making a hot area and a cold area. And we're making this hot area and a cold area either in a parking lot, near the building in the grass area, or underneath existing lowest lowest part of the
You know
building.
what? I
with CME.
think we're going to be out of time. I'm going to come back and let
Okay.
you complete this because I'm going to have another round of questions. And I,
Sure.
and I do want to ask this about you as well, Ms. Linthorne, about hydrogen and the role of nuclear industry and energy in creating hydrogen, generating hydrogen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The time is up. We will move to the third party, MPP Tsao.
Thank you, Chair. Gino, please go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, so basically there's two things. There's 50% of the time the power in Ontario, at least 50% of the time is hardly used. Nights, weekends, long weekends, holidays, most of the time it's the peak times. We're building all of these generators primarily for peak times more than any other time. So basically, if we're able to store electricity like we do with batteries, we can also store heat in the ground and chilled water in the ground for major buildings downtown and cool and displace the compressor bearing units in air conditioning, and we're able to reduce the amount of compressor power by 25 to 35%. For example, so there has to be a combination of bringing in new power from nuclear reactors and all other things, but we can also save power downtown and reduce the amount of draw from the grid. And this could be scalable. So over the last 3 years, we devised a drilling machine that can go underneath the lowest parking garage in a building, 7 feet high. It can drill 600-foot semi-automatic, 5 to 8 times faster than anything else. And we could scale that up the same way as the well downtown, just using for storage for district heating. We can do this exactly. It's just a different form of geothermal, except it's just an advanced form. So we have to do both, demand side management and also increased power, because otherwise with increased power by itself, I don't think we can do it. So Bill 40 is a good example of this going ahead. Now, it doesn't matter what we store, the heat we store. We can store heat that's coming out of the sewers. We can store heat that's coming out of the process of generating hydrogen or cleaning bottles for bottling plants. We can store heat and store cooling in the ground.
Thank you, Chair.
You done? Okay. We move to our second round of questioning. MPP Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll direct my question to Mr. Valerio. So you mentioned in your talk the tremendous amount of energy that manufacturing requires. And this bill prioritizes the megawatts to go to manufacturing and to other high job creating sectors to meet our projected growth in those areas. I was wondering if you could share your association's thoughts on that strategy.
I think that is the way to go, because what we care about really is jobs. Jobs created are very important. And we know that manufacturing is very important to the economy. We have about 800,000 jobs just in Ontario. In Canada, we have about 1.76 million jobs, and I think the government has done a good job in attracting tens of billions of dollars in manufacturing investments that's resulted in good paying jobs across the province. So I think just codifying the economic growth as a statutory objective, we think if defined correctly and if there's metrics on job creation, I think that will help in attracting more investment to the province when there is certainty for investors, along with some other components in this act. And we totally support that job creation is one of the more important components of what we think this act will result in.
Thank you.
MPP Pinsole.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Pratik. Do you believe Bill 40 provides certainty to support long-term capital investment by companies?
Yes, I think if some of the metrics are clarified, such as the specified load facility regime. I think, like I said, traditional manufacturing facilities should be excluded for that. Like, I don't have a megawatt number for you, but I would think, if there's a clear determination of if a facility requiring over 100 megawatts will be subject to capture, if at all, and a facility requiring less than that will not be, or a facility that is deemed traditionally manufacturing will not be. I think manufacturers operate on a 10 to 20 year timeline, so I think having that long-term certainty before an investment decision, final decision is made, is very important. Like I said, if the Act is able to define those metrics more clearly, I think that will certainly provide more investment certainty. But as it stands, we still think that the Act has the potential to create more jobs and advance manufacturing in the province.
Thank you for that.
MPP Cirilla.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. My question's for Jessica. What is your organization's overall impression of Bill 40 and the government's direction on securing affordable energy for the future?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the question. So when I think about, again, economic development and the opportunity, and my colleague here has shared, the examples very specific to manufacturing, in the nuclear sector across the province, there are jobs created, we know, that support nuclear and the production of that power. And in particular, just, with the conversation of Canadian manufacturers and exporters, manufacturers such as BWXT, who is a founding member of the Nuclear Innovation Institute, a major manufacturer in our province, creating jobs in various cities across our province. And so we recognize the economic development and the certainty to ensure that we can step into the new economy with data centers and AI cloud computing service, but needing to be responsible and powering that and taking a strategic approach. So that means creating jobs for Ontarians and assessment growth for our municipalities and continued prosperity for our province.
Beautiful. Thank you.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. The Canadian manufacturers, could you please tell me a little about the members you represent?
Well, we represent members in every subsector, so from auto, chemical, cosmetics, even members in the nuclear space, right? Members in the oil and gas space and in the mining space. So we have members that are mom and pop run shops to like the largest producers of the country. So it's really a wide spectrum of members that we represent.
Okay. And in the automotive sector, how will Bill 40 help them? Because I come out of the automotive sector. I used to work for Ford Motor Company for 30 years, and now I work for another Ford, Premier Ford. So what do you think? So I've never left Ford. So how do you think this bill will help the auto sector as well?
Well, I don't have a specific answer for that for you right now, but I can submit a written answer for the record at a later time.
Thank you. Thank you.
1 minute, that's it?
That's it. That's it.
You still have 1 minute? No? Okay. It's your choice. MPP Glover.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me go back to Mr. DeReza. You were talking about M-Wave. Actually, M-Wave is in my riding, and it provides deep water cooling throughout the downtown core, all the way up to this building here. I was told that the building that we're in, the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, is actually cooled by deep water cooling from M-Wave. They've built a 150-foot well underneath the building called The Well, because it's on Wellington. And they're providing deep water cooling from that. The systems that you're talking about are similar, but they're retrofitted systems. Like when they were building the well, for people who don't know, it's down at the corner of Spadina and Wellington, and it was the biggest man-made hole I've ever seen when they built it. It was like 6 stories or more underground of parking, and then beneath that they built a giant tube like for providing deep water cooling. What's the cost for this deep water cooling and the deep water and the heating, geothermal heating that you're providing? Like, what does it come up to cost, and how does it compare with other sources?
The well is our partners built the well. They actually they constructed the well using the concrete well. So this well is a big tank. It's 1,800 1.8 million gallons of water. And this will basically allow them to heat and cool the 100 or so buildings that they're, I think it's 150 buildings that they're doing right now. We can reproduce that well underneath the existing lowest parking level, drilling holes, putting these pipes in the ground, the same way as you do for geothermal, except where you can put them closer together, at 1/10 of the cost and 1/10 of the time. And if we have enough equipment and capacity and scaling up, we expect some investors to come in and like Choice REITs, whatever, to help to basically take us to other parts of Canada. We can do this anywhere at the lowest parking level where there's no cars, hardly any cars. And we could do this at 1/10 of the cost at 1/10 of the time.
Okay. You know what?
And we don't need any space. We use the existing space. It's there now.
Yeah. Okay. I'd love to see some more. If you have some more details, if you could email my office. My name is Chris Glover, and I'm sure you can find me online. But I'd like to see, more of a breakdown of that and how that works, because it is certainly M-Wave is phenomenal in the riding that I serve.
We're in the Star this week. We're in the Star this week, and we're going to be at the Mars conference, the 2-day conference, in the next week as well.
Okay.
And we've been all over North America right now in promoting this, but now it seems like it's catching on.
Okay, thank you. Please send the information to my office. Let's see.
Just imagine if we were to reduce the existing building load by 25 to 35%, and there's no grid involved. We just reduce the grid necessary. We could use that 25 to 35% at some other place, right? So this is a proven technology. It's a Canadian technology.
No, it's certainly. I mean, you're increasing the capacity to do other things, which is really important. Let me ask a question of Ms. Linthorne. What is the role of nuclear in? I sort of set this up before in generating hydrogen. And I'll just preface this a little bit. Like, one of the things that I've heard is that, you can't scale up, like turn on and turn off nuclear. And so you're generating, and some of the people who've come in here are actually dairy farmers, and they complain about electricity being dumped into the ground because it affects the animals. So can you use the extra electricity to generate hydrogen at like a plant like Bruce?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll a non-technical answer for you today. I certainly recognize, and back to Gino's comments around taking, the opportunity for us to power the grid together. Right, we recognize that this needs to be a very collaborative approach, and so is there space for hydrogen in the future? Yes, I believe there is. I think there's space for all technologies. Canadian technology can do, certainly making nuclear power for us, but then the wind and solar and all of the tools in the toolbox are going to be required to have a clean grid. With respect to hydrogen specific and the role nuclear will play to create hydrogen. To be true clean hydrogen, it needs to be a clean grid, again, bringing us back to why we need base load nuclear. And so if we have that base load nuclear power, that will allow us to make that clean hydrogen and further power the economy.
Okay. Are there any pilot projects using nuclear to generate hydrogen? Because hydrogen is basically a storage. It's not actually a power source.
Through Mr. Chair, I can certainly follow up with you with regards to your question.
Okay, thank you. I'll give up my 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
MP Pizza.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. For CME, I'm wondering, I know in your deputation I heard you speak about the need for clarity, protection, and accountability. I'm wondering if you would like to expand on that a bit for us.
I think there were 2 points. The first was the SLF regime. And what I meant by that is we need to exclude manufacturing facilities. So we need clarity on what that regime is going to look like, right? And the first point, I think, was with regards to the economic growth statutory objective as well. And what I meant there is also having clear guidelines as to what the economic growth part of it will mean. So just having metrics about job creation or capital investment or load prediction forecasts or anything like that, I think that will provide clarity to manufacturers before they make a final investment decision.
And why would you say it's important for manufacturers to have that clarity?
Well, because manufacturers operate on a long horizon, 10, 20-year horizon. So before they make the decision, they need to know because Ontario is competing with other jurisdictions, especially in the U.S. And we've heard from manufacturers now that the U.S. states have been calling them to move their operations down south. So I think Ontario has to be competitive. We have a good, stable regulatory jurisdiction. And this bill serves to attract investment, but I think just having that clarity on what those metrics are going to look like in practice will allow manufacturers to make that investment decision.
Well, thank you very much. And Chair, I yield back the rest of my time.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the time allotted for our second panel. Thank you very much for all of you for coming and sharing your valuable input and expertise with us. Now we're going to take another recess until 5 o'clock so that our final panel is ready.